The San Francisco 49ers have surprised some fans by bringing back Kye Juszczyk to a 2-year deal. Some fans are confused. Some fans are excited. Regardless of it all, we're going to talk about why the San Francisco 49ers brought Kye Juszczyk back and what it might mean for the future of this offense. So we're going to get into all of that. But before we do, you already know what to do. Smash that like button, drop an SDS in the chat. And if you got a juice box emoji, drop those in the chat as well. And let's talk about return of the juice. Let's go. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Love to see it. All right, we got the juice box flowing in. If you are just joining us, make sure you grab a juice box. Come on in and get situated. Let's talk about a move that went down in the early morning. The only reason, I don't even know, like, I'm going to be honest with you. I've put a lot of hours into 49ers content this week. So I was like, oh, okay, Saturday's coming up. I'm going to sleep in. I'm going to take a little rest because I have been exhausted. And for whatever reason, something woke me up at about 6:45. And if I'm awake, I'm like, all right, I got to look at my phone just to make sure something didn't go down. And sure enough, I look at my phone, and then I find out that the San Francisco 49ers have signed Kye Juszczyk to a 2-year deal, $8 million over the 2 years, $7 million guaranteed. And if you were watching yesterday's show, when we were kind of talking about, like, are the 49ers cooked, et cetera, I said there's a good chance Kye Juszczyk is going to return. I feel like probably 10 times. I even feel like there was a point where I was like, there might be a chance Kye Juszczyk returns, because based on what I was hearing, Kye Juszczyk, he went out, he was able to meet with other teams, and the 49ers had an offer for him. This is from my understanding. They had an offer for him the whole time. So he was released, and they let him kind of go test the market, but they still had an offer for him to return. And so he went test the market, and I think just after it all, he just decided, I want to retire a San Francisco 49er. I want to stay in the Bay Area. I want to stay with the San Francisco 49ers. I believe we know he went and visited with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I believe we've seen that the Raiders and Pete Carroll were also interested as well. But so around the evening time is when I started to hear, like, all right, Kye Juszczyk, I think he's coming back. And, getting excited. And then it was Kittle. Kittle really broke the news that Kye Juszczyk was coming back with his post. That's exactly what he was saying. And then he doubled down by posting to his Instagram, basically indicating that Juice was coming back. So it was crystal clear that Juice was going to return, and it does feel like 49er fans are pretty excited about it. Some, I think, are trying to understand like why it happened in the first place. But if you guys remember, he posted this to Twitter. What time was this at? Is at 9:30. So he posted the juice box with the heart, and this was my post right under it. Come on, Juice. We know you're coming back. Let's go. Come on back, Mr. Kye Juszczyk. And sure enough, it was reported in the early mornings. I think it was like 5 a.m. Pacific Standard Time that this came out. So Kye Juszczyk is officially coming back to the San Francisco 49ers. And, you know, for the most part, 49er fans are pretty excited about this. There were two moves that I think didn't sit well with the 49er majority of the fan base, and that was Dre Greenlaw leaving to the Broncos and Kye Juszczyk getting released. So for me, I had mentioned it. It was kind of a surprise that Kye Juszczyk got released. Because I thought he was going to make it. I thought he was going to make it through. But again, now understanding kind of what happened, it makes sense. They gave him the opportunity to go search for a better deal while still having the door open for him to return. He went and looked and said, you know what? I'm going to come back. I'm going to retire with the San Francisco 49ers, play out my career 2 more seasons. And the best part is that the $7 million guaranteed, I think all but guarantees that he will play out his career with the 49ers. So from a cap ramification standpoint, I'm going to be honest with you. I have read multiple different things trying to explain the impact because the 49ers did take on a dead cap hit by releasing him. But I'm not a cap expert, so I tried to make sense of it, and I'm just like, you know what? I'm just gonna leave that up to people who are much smarter than me when it comes to the cap conversation. I just know Kye Juszczyk is back. I just know Kye Juszczyk is on a 2-year deal that's nearly fully guaranteed, and he will likely retire a 49er. So I am good with that. I am. I really, really am. Let me get to a couple of these. Hugo says Juice equals Chuck Norris. Juice can speak Braille. And then shout out to Lester San Jose, the Skeptic Tank, for becoming a member of the channel. Appreciate you guys. Thank you for joining the channel and becoming a channel member. Welcome officially to the SDS. So this kind of brings up another conversation because when Luke Farrell was signed, a lot of people, and I don't know why, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. Like, I don't know the association of why believing signing a tight end meant that made Kye Juszczyk expendable. Because when you look at Luke Farrell, who is a great blocking tight end, I believe he has played 30 fullback snaps in his entire career. And it just seemed odd to me, like, why would the 49ers replace a Pro Bowl fullback, an all-pro fullback, with a tight end who's never played fullback? It just, and the 49ers on top of that, they needed a tight end too. Like, it was one of the worst kept secrets of the roster construction is that when they let Charlie Warner go, they were not able to replace him with Eric Saubert, Cameron Latu, or Braden Willis, or Jake Tonjes, or Mason Pline. If you guys recall, I kind of threw a mini hissy fit when they let Charlie Warner go. I received a lot of pushback for that because they're like, he only had 11 receptions over 4 seasons with the 49ers. He's a bum. Let him go. And my pushback was Charlie Warner was an impact to the 49ers offense because he was a blocker, because he was he was almost as good of a blocker as George Kittle was. And that's saying a lot. And I watched film so I can actually see Charlie Warner's impact in the run game. So when Charlie Warner left to the Falcons, 3 years, $12 million, I was like, oh, that stinks, because he was such an integral part of the run game. I got a lot of pushback on that. Like, oh, you're upset about a tight end who doesn't catch the football. And listen, I get it, but the 49ers offense requires 2 tight ends who can block. It's just how it works. They do so much with their tight ends. They pull their tight ends across the formation. They run 2 tight end sets quite a bit, especially lined up in line next to each other on either the right or the left of the formation. And they use them like their offensive linemen. They use them like their extra offensive linemen. So it's important because instead of having these jumbo packages where you actually have extra offensive linemen on the field, that is going to either trigger the defense to match with more defensive linemen or more linebackers, by having the tight ends, it almost kind of keeps them in a mindset that this could still be a pass, even though it's like a jumbo formation. It could still be a pass, right? You could still have these tight ends go run routes and things of that nature. So I think it's a big deal in the 49ers offense. So Luke Farrell, in my opinion, was never signed as Kye Juszczyk's replacement. It was them thinking they could replace Charlie Warner with Sauber, with Braden Willis, with Cameron Latu, and then realizing we made a mistake. We have to go actually spend on a tight end to come play that role. So I don't mind it. And so that means, and that's why the door is open for Kye Juszczyk to return, because he plays an important role. The 49ers were going to have to find a fullback one way or the other. It was either going to come through the draft. I don't really think there are, like, fullback is such a dying breed right now. I don't even know what available fullbacks there are in free agency. So they were going to have to make a move. And why not bring back the most dynamic fullback in sports right now? It's still Kye Juszczyk. He's still a weapon. He might be used less and less and less, as one of the reasons what we talked about him potentially getting released, because you could see that his usage was decreasing every year. So, it wasn't like a crazy thought process, but I'm glad that he's back. I think he brings so much more than just what he does on the field. You know, he was a captain last year. He's a guy that obviously is a glue guy in the locker room. Him, Kittle, Juszczyk, or not Juszczyk, CMC, all great friends. And so you're going to keep the trio together with the 49ers. Speedy says Niners have the easiest strength of schedule in the league. Their demise is being greatly overstated in the media. They're actually betting favorites to win the division. We actually did essentially a whole roster breakdown of why I do actually believe they're not that far out as many believe, or as the media is kind of spinning. I even did a tweet about it today. When you look at the 49ers offense, it isn't that much different. It really isn't. There are a couple pieces. Obviously, the big pieces that aren't here anymore are Debo Samuel, and I would say Aaron Banks. Outside of those two, the offense is the same, but you've added Demarcus Robinson, you've added Luke Farrell, you've added Mac Jones. Mayo Mac Jones, come on down. But the difference is the fact that Debo Samuel kind of was getting phased out of the offense to begin with. And I mentioned it. It didn't. The most apparent where it felt like it was time for a change was that game against the Rams at the end of the year on Thursday. I think it was Thursday Night Football, where it felt like every time Debo was on the field, it felt like the offense wasn't able to find a rhythm. But for whatever reason, he would go to the sideline, and then all of a sudden it was like the offense started to pick up ground, and then he would come in, and then it would stall out, and then he would go, and then it was weird. It was the first time I'd ever noticed that, where I was like, it actually feels like the offense is getting bogged down because Kyle is creating plays specifically for Debo, but they weren't working. And it was like it felt like it was forcing the offense to stall out. And on top of that, I thought Aaron Banks was one of the worst offensive linemen on the team last year, specifically in the run game. So the offense isn't that much different. It's really not. So the hope is that they have a little bit more juice, a little bit more energy. Ricky Pearsall takes a step forward. Christian McCaffrey being healthy, you basically didn't have Christian McCaffrey last year. So him being healthy would be huge. Trent Williams playing significant snaps and playing the whole season would be huge. So very, very interested in seeing how this offense continues to go. I talked about it yesterday. I believe Colton McKivitz will take a step forward heading to year 3 as a starter. Dominic Pooney should take a step. Ben Barch has the opportunity to take a step. I would say the biggest question right now is Jake Brendel. But you do have Matt Hennessy, you have Nick Sakel, Spencer Burford. So there's still options, and they could still turn to the draft potentially. The biggest issues are on defense. And the best part about the biggest issues being on defense is it's a lot easier compared to the offense to plug guys into these holes and to be able to have them be an impact right away. With the offense, it's much harder. It's definitely much more challenging to have a ton of new pieces because you have to relearn how to execute this extremely nuanced and challenging offense. And there's a lot of benefit that comes from having continuity with those players. So that's why I think the offense, for the most part, has stuck together. It's the defense that needs a facelift. They need defensive linemen badly. I tweeted about it today. I was like, today would be a phenomenal day to sign Azeez Ojulari. Not because Azeez Ojulari is going to come in and be the savior of the defense, but because he fills a hole. There's a glaring hole on the defensive line after they have released Malik Collins, Javon Hargrave, and Leonard Floyd. So by adding someone in free agency, I think it would relieve a little bit of stress heading into the draft, understanding they're already going to be drafting defensive linemen, defensive tackles, DNs. But if you at least have some bodies that you've added in free agency, it gives you more flexibility. And like I said, I think it relieves a little bit of stress as well. So the defensive line continues to be the most glaring issue on the roster. Um, I don't think the offensive line is as big of an issue as many believe, but they do have to prepare for the future. They need a new center that they could find in the draft. Jackson Slater out of Sacramento State is currently the guy that I would like in the 4th or 5th round to potentially be the center of the future. Um, they could go for another guard because I do imagine if Ben Barch starts, he won't be here next year because if he plays well, he will clearly get paid, and that might not be by the San Francisco 49ers. So they could also draft a guard as well. And then they're going to have to be thinking about a tackle as for the future too. We know Trent Williams is 37 years old. Every year is a question about if he's going to retire or not. And then you have Colton McKivitz, who's heading into the final year of his contract. So we don't know if Colton is going to be up for a contract extension this offseason. He could. Or they're going to make him play out the final year of his deal. Something tells me that they're quietly working on a contract negotiation behind the scenes. No inside information there. That's just my gut feeling based on reading the room. He has significantly outplayed his contract and he's heading into the final year. Similar conversations have been happening with Jawan Jennings. So it'll be fascinating. But again, the biggest holes they have to fill are on the defensive side of the ball. They have added the depth that I think they've needed. Now they need to find impact players. They need to go into the draft and they need to hit. They need to hit. They need to come away with plug and play day one starters. And as it currently stands, it clearly appears like they are going to be drafting a lot of defensive linemen. So we'll see how that plays out. But let's circle the conversation back to Kyle Juszczyk. Do we like that the 49ers brought back Kyle Juszczyk? Drop a yes in the chat if you are happy that Kyle Juszczyk has returned. Drop a no if you disagree with him coming back and you're just like, what the heck, man? I thought we got out of the Kyle Juszczyk business. First one right out the gate. Stovey said no. Stovey, I've noticed, seems to be down on a lot of things that the 49ers do. So, but I understand. I see a lot of yeses. I see a lot of no's, or not a lot of no's. I see a couple no's. I see a meh. We got a meh, like, eh. Justin says, I like it. I'm just like fullback before defensive line. The problem with this, Justin, is there are no more defensive line. They're gone, man. They're the type of least defensive tackles. The defensive tackles that are out there are so bottom barrel. They're guys that you would be signing that may or may not make the team. Like, so I don't know. Do they sign Derek Nottie, the interior defensive lineman from the Chiefs? He kind of reminds me of DJ Jones a little bit. But I mean, do they go after a guy like Raekwon Davis? 6'7", huge defensive tackle. But he just was with Gus Bradley. So we'll see. We'll see. They're saying get to 200 likes. Do we hit 100 likes? Is the question. Juju Smith re-signed with the Chiefs just now. Niners detail says donating to the Azeez Ojulari Fund. Man, I hope so. I feel like it would mitigate a lot of stress. You know me, shout out to Jordan Elliott, not Jordan Elliott, the defensive tackle, Jordan Elliott of NBC Sports. He was the one who initially put me on to Azeez Ojulari. It's actually funny. If you know anything about me and Jordan, like we go way back to when we started doing like content together. The fact that he's at NBC right now and he's worked his way up from not writing for anyone to, I think it was 49ers Gold Mine, and then it was Niners Nation, and now he's at NBC Sports. It's phenomenal, by the way. Shout out to my guy Jordan. But one of the first times like we bonded on Twitter was over Azeez Ojulari. He was posting Azeez Ojulari clips, and I'm like, who is this guy? I was like, who is this edge rusher that you are showing me right now? Because I was instantly infatuated with him. One of my favorite things about Azeez Ojulari are his hands. He has some sweet, like he's a guy who is going to just be active with, cross chops, rips, swipes, swims. Like he is fantastic when it comes to using his arms and hands in pass rush moves. So that was one of the first things that stood out to me. Not only does he have the first step get off, but he has the karate chop moves to really mess up offensive linemen. So I don't look at Azeez as like, oh, we're fixed. He's like a younger Leonard Floyd in his prime. Doesn't have the same length as Leonard Floyd, but he's a younger Leonard Floyd. Is the way that I look at it. So yeah, I would absolutely love to have him, for sure. But I just don't know. I just don't know. What is this? Brian Burns comp? Scootin? Where's my guy? Was his name Tyler? Who was helping me pronounce every single name that I was saying incorrectly? Scorton. I need him now. Scootin? Scorton at Purdue at his 257 weight. He now looks a little bit like Burns. So, as much as this offseason has felt like the great reset or the great exodus, I think there are ways to look at it positively. I think there are ways that you could absolutely spin negatively too. I think there's what has happened is it's created, I've tweeted it before, the moves that have been made and some of the things that have come out, it creates another range of outcomes for negative outcomes, but there are still positive ones that do exist. So the things that are positive about the upcoming season is, the 49ers offense, barring, Kittle and Brock get paid, should be able to bounce back, I think, relatively quickly, for sure. I don't think the offense is in dire shape as people think. The defense obviously is the most glaring, but if they can patch that together with a couple key pieces, boom, all of a sudden the defense can be back. Special teams headed by Brant Boyer. If special teams can actually be a weapon for the 49ers for once instead of primarily a liability, that's a huge swing in momentum. They have the weakest schedule, as you know, as it's being reported. Um, and the NFC West is open for the taking. I would say right now, the Rams are the front runners, but the NFC West is still open to be had. So we'll see. We'll see. Omar said they signed Kyle. We are cooked. Why? Why are we cooked for signing a fullback? As long as Brock is paid, there is zero controversy at all. Because if you're paying your quarterback $50 million a year, there's no controversy. Like there's literally none. You can set your watch to it that there will be people out there who will try to generate a quarterback controversy, but as long as Brock is paid, there's no controversy. Now, if they attempt to go into the season without paying Brock, there's your controversy. Because I think in that scenario, Mac Jones would be making more money than Brock. So there's your controversy. But again, as long as he gets paid, there's no controversy. So we'll see. We'll see. I like this point by Detail. He says it's crazy how the narrative was Debo was fat and washed, but when he left, now it's the 49ers downfall. I think it I think it was a change of scenery that both parties needed. I think Debo needed to get out of here. And I think the offense, I think Kyle used Debo as a crutch a little too much. And uh I just feel like defenses weren't scared of Debo anymore. They weren't and they kind of knew how Debo was going to be implemented. So not only were they not scared of Debo anymore, they knew how they were going to try to use him. So what I think and what I'm hoping for this offseason uh, is Kyle reinventing the offense. There needs to be a spark. There needs to be a freshness to it. Yes, there are a lot of the same players coming back, but you can't go out there and run the same offense that you just put out on the field for 17 weeks. Defenses knew what you were doing. Defenses had an idea, and you can't do that. You have to reinvent, recreate, whatever word you want to use. You have to evolve the offense because unfortunately everyone runs Kyle's scheme now. More than half the league is running Kyle's scheme. So defensive coordinators aren't confused by it as much as they used to be. So that's, I think, a huge, huge key element. Brock can't get franchised until next year. So Brock is under contract right now. And if he plays on his final year of his rookie deal, he will get $5 million and change. But I do think it's funny that if my math's not mistaken, let's say that the 49ers don't come to terms. They make Brock play on the final year of his rookie deal. I think in that scenario, the contract that Max signed is just above what Brock's final year on his rookie deal would be, which is an interesting element. I'm just saying. There's a lot of dollar amounts they could have signed him to, but they signed him to an amount that was just above Brock. they if they forced Brock to play on his rookie, it's like just right above. So again, it's like, would the 49ers really do that? Would they force Brock to have his backup make more? Brock Purdy's backup every single year has made more money than him. Oh, Jake Moody makes more money than Brock Purdy. I think Tabor Pepper made more money than Brock Purdy. Omar says, JK, we love Kyle. We are cooked regardless. I say we're someone said like we're simmering. I don't think we're cooked yet. I think we're getting warm. We're a little toasty, you know. Little ooh. I don't know if we're cooked just yet. But I think we're close. I think it all comes down to I think it just comes down to what type of energy does this team have next year? Because last year's energy was awful. It was so bad. It was palpable in training camp. It was not good. And you know, this game, it's so tactical, it's so execution based. But again, it's still played by humans. And if these humans that are playing this game are exhausted, if they're wiped out, if they don't have the energy and things like that, that can really play an impact. And if you have your top players going through contract extension talks that are grueling and just weighing and bogging everything down, it's another added layer. So I just think that as long as they can come in refreshed, energized, and ready to go, they could absolutely turn this thing around. Do I fear Seattle now? I do not. I don't know. Maybe I'm being too harsh of a critic on Seattle, but I did not think that Cooper Kupp being signed to a 3-year, I believe it was $45 million deal, was not a good signing. I did not think that was a good signing. Like, yes, it's nice to have Cooper Kupp, but a 31-year-old guy who's clearly hasn't been the same player after coming off a knee injury, doesn't mean he's like completely washed, but he's getting there. Like, and one of the things that I've learned is that when players start showing you signs of decline, you kind of have to accept it. Because there have been plenty of times where I'm like, oh, it's just a down year, even though it's like 31, 32. Like, oh, it's fine. He's going to bounce back. And it's like more often than not, they don't bounce back because, father time comes for everyone. And it doesn't matter if you're 31, 41. He's going to come knocking at your door. And you kind of have to be weary of those signs. And Coop never was a speed demon to begin with. He's a very tactical route runner, great hands. I still think he's a quality wide receiver. I just don't think he's what he was when he was a Triple Crown threat in his prime. And so when the Seattle Seahawks signed him, I wasn't like, oh no, what are we going to do? DK Metcalf was a much better wide receiver right now than I think Cooper Kupp is. So I'm not necessarily concerned about Cooper Kupp. I think JSN is a better wide receiver than him right now. And then they signed Sam Darnold. I'm not necessarily shaking in my boots over that either, because we know Sam. We know how to affect Sam. We know, yes, did Sam beat the 49ers last year? He did. But I'm going to give a lot of credit to Brian Flores and that Vikings defense for one of the main reasons why the 49ers lost that game. You know, Sam did enough to get the win, but Flores shut down the 49ers offense, mainly with his exotic looks, and how he was scheming up free rushers. Again, that game was the first sign of the season-long protection issues that we were going to see, because either Flores revealed the plan to the rest of the league, or I don't know what happened. But ever since that game, the 49ers offensive line struggled so much in regards to getting protection, sliding the right way, picking up guys. Like, it was brutal. It was a brutal year. It was one of those things where it was like, I don't even know what the answer is. I just know that we're getting exposed every game with our protection schemes, and I don't know how to stop it. I don't know how to stop this leak from happening, and it just happened all year, and it impacts the entire offense as a result. So I'm not very concerned about the Seattle Seahawks. I think Geno and Sam is a wash. They got worse at wide receiver. Yeah, I mean, we got one of their cornerbacks, Trey Brown. I'm not concerned about Washington, or excuse me, about Seattle. The NFC West teams, if I had to rank from concern, it would go Rams, Cardinals, Seahawks. Rams are the best right now in division. I'm not sleeping on Arizona. I think they have a talent deficiency, but I think they're well coached. So I'm not sleeping on Arizona. So that they could be a guy. They could be a team that surprise. Remember me, detail. Old takes exposed. Remember me. Cardinals beat us last year, and then they beat us twice. No, we didn't get swept by the Cardinals. I'm not concerned about the Arizona Cardinals for the totality of the season. The Cardinals just play the 49ers very tough every single time. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know if that is PTSD from the Cliff Kingsbury Colt McCoy days. We got swept by the car. See, I can't even remember. I think I have put the last year's season so far in the rear view. I'm not concerned about Arizona in the grand scheme of the league impact. Arizona plays the 49ers very well. And it's kind of frustrating, because every time I think, it's like, oh, the 49ers should motorboat these dirty cards, it gets flipped on our head. So less concerned about them in the long term. More so just about how the 49ers match up against them. So we'll see, man. Dude, that Colt McCoy game, that was brutal. That was when we had Fitzpatrick and what's his name? I don't know why I always blank on his name because I despised him so much. Josh Norman. That was when the 49ers starting cornerbacks were Josh Norman and Fitzpatrick, right? Who he signed off the streets. The 49ers refused to play Ambry Thomas and Diamador Lenore. They're like, you know what? We want Josh Norman. That's who we want. Yeah, that was brutal. What was this? Kicker died the first time you guys played, and the second game, Josh Dobbs and Patrick Taylor were starting. The kicker died. I don't remember. Was that see, like I'm realizing that I put last year and buried it in a portion of my brain that I hope to never remember. Everyone's like, so I guess Moody had a bad game. It's like was that was the game where he got hit and got hurt? Yeah. Yeah, man. You know it's a tough year when your kicker is getting injured. That was one of the crazy parts of last season is we had not one kicker get hurt. We had two kickers get hurt. Like, come on, man. Like last year was crazy. It really was just whatever could go wrong went wrong for the 49ers, and they still somehow almost had a chance to get into the playoffs. So I think Josh Norman is like the only player that I've actually like called out on my platform. You know, we like to keep it pretty positive around here, but Josh Norman, I literally made a scathing post about how I could not stand him. I remember when he stood over a Rams player, Devondre Campbell. That works. Yeah, I went after Devondre pretty tough too. But I remember there was a play from Josh Norman where he stood over a Rams player and he started cleating him. And I was like, that goes against my football morals. I'm all for being ultra aggressive, hitting super hard, all that kind of stuff. But if you're going to stand over a dude and start cleating their arm or a leg, that's so whack. I don't, if I was a coach or like had any say in that roster, instantly would have cut him. Instantly. I was like, there's no, I don't play that. I don't play that. But anyways, that's in the past. We're focused on the future. And the future has a lot of question marks, but we do know the future does have Kye Juszczyk. So you got that. And we're going to see how the 49ers attack this draft and how they get into it because it is going to be very, very important. But I appreciate everyone for tapping in. Hopefully you guys have a great Saturday. Enjoy it. Again, I probably won't see you until Monday unless any other news comes through, but hopefully you guys are hyped. Before we get out of here, what did we finish on likes with the video? I know we went over 100. Did we get anywhere close to 200 like goal? 158. We're pretty close. There's definitely 50 sourdough squad lurkers around here. Hasn't smashed that like button. Listen to Niner Faithful. 200 for the juice. Also, for this special Saturday, grab a juice box and a cookie on your way out. Have a special snack. Juice that like button. There you go. Listen to the people of the chat. But again, appreciate you guys tapping in on this one. Goldfish snack. We got sliced oranges for you guys. Keep it a little bit healthy. We got some orange juice, apple juice, cranberry juice. What other kind of juice? You know what is probably some of the most underrated juice? Guava juice. Ever since I've left Hawaii, all I want is guava juice. That's it. Just give me guava. Just give me guava. Grape juice. Sunny D. That's a throwback. He said pimp juice. Oh my goodness. All right. We're 20 away. I don't know if we can get 20. I'm going to throw a 30-second timer on. Can we get 20 likes in 30 seconds? We'll see. You have been put on notice. Do 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 do. Oh, can we do it? Oh, 3, 2. Why was my... Do you see that? Is that taking a picture? Did we hit it? Did we hit the timer? Sorry, I got distracted. Oh, we're at 199. Oh, there we go. There we go. Shout out to you guys. We hit it. 200 just for juice. We're being watched. Appreciate you guys. I'm out for now. Peace. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Love to see